Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Nicole Ogloza. Nicole, welcome on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all ours. So let's start with who is Nicole?
So I'm a University of Florida graduate in communication sciences. And then from there, I started my professional career in technical sales, where I later actually moved on to becoming a systems engineer at Workday for government and education systems. And then later on, I actually ended my professional career at Warner Bros. Doing the same exact thing, except for communication systems engineering. And then later on, I founded my own company, Etha. But prior to, kind of all of that, a little bit of a professional or like personal story here. I went through so many challenges that really made me resilient. Being and creating being the founder of Etha.one. Long story short, COVID had impacted me, just as many of you on the show might be listening to. But at that point, I lost my dream job at Warner Bros. In addition to a $32 million contract for my other startup that was with a colleague of mine at SpaceX. Went through an incredible journey of losing my phone across my hike back from California to Florida. And, kind of from there, I really learned many different types of perceptions, how misinformation really spread across COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to how news media has really affected all of our lives through that journey. And for the people for our platform, there's a huge impact that came out of my story. It's a very personal one for me. So I believe that Etha will continue to exist and really share the facts as opposed to anything else that is in the media currently today with our technology. And I believe that, I won't give up as easily through these personal experiences that I've had, from getting lost in the middle of the desert after losing my dream job, as well as, working with some of the most amazing startup entrepreneurs out in Los Angeles. So, I came here today to be on the show just to create a very inspirational story ahead.
And you've had quite an adventure, I can tell, and a transformative one. So would love to hear a little more about that. But now that we know a little bit about Nicole, let's play a little game about these big themes that impact us as a community. And we call this the underrated, overrated. So when you're ready, I'll throw some themes at you and see what you think about them.
Sure, go for it.
All right. Let's start with NFTs.
I would say those are highly overrated.
Metaverse.
Overrated.
And while we are at it, crypto.
Underrated.
Okay. Uh, real estate prices.
Highly overrated.
Inflation.
Especially in New York City.
Yes.
Extremely underrated.
Right. What about cash?
That's definitely going to be mentioned in the news media. Oh, underrated.
Okay. And startup valuations.
Definitely underrated.
Okay. And the Great Resignation.
Underrated.
Okay. Well, thanks for playing along. That was fun. I really appreciate it. And with that, let's come back to some questions that are closer to your heart. Tell us about Etha. What is it? What's the mission and the vision?
Sure. So what Etha is that it's a social and news media that is actually using AI to bring a lot of transparency and accountability to news media, but not only that, politicians. A lot of people ask, it's just another AI, social news media. That's not actually what it is. It's actually a government 2.0 system, which will allow people from all over the nation, even from the down to the community levels, to really support and back up their favorite or least favorite politicians and help them solve issues that they're facing in their communities. And eventually this system will be able to help create laws and policies and also find a middle ground to the political polarization that we're facing these years in the very near future. One of our specific AIs that's actually one of the most intriguing ones to me is finding the source of origination. So what that is like in the media, most of these larger news media houses, whether you're Fox or CNN, whatever spectrum you do fall on, they actually do find and source their stories from smaller blogs before they become what they've become. And this AI will actually target the first time someone has ever mentioned this particular statement, whether it comes from a politician or otherwise, on the web. And it tracks the narratives over time of how the story has developed and actually who it came from. So a really, really quick example is that people actually that can go on our platform will eventually be able to get to see that this came from a 4 a.m. prankster blogger about a celebrity death, as opposed to, it being discredited overnight through our AI. Very powerful stuff.
It is. And it's almost, so there's a lot of blockchain terminology for authorizing the source of this, and then you either credit it or discredit it based on, like you said, if this is coming from a humor-based site or someone who's kind of building up stories that are not meant to be real. Because I recently started paying a little more attention to this. Fake news travels for 6 or 7 times faster than facts, which is really sad.
Yeah, and a lot of this has to do with the way that the media is actually structured, how our communication systems are structured. And now that everyone is doing this whole fake news thing, it's obviously gotten so much out of control. But yes, fake news does travel much faster than credible news. One, because we don't actually have the manpower to fact check everything that does go out, and the juiciest headlines really win. But the other fact is, a lot of people do get fooled from other pranksters that are lying around on some of these blogging sites that are really just kind of looking to spread fires that aren't worth spreading. And I think that this is something that can be solvable, this misinformation crisis, is if you're just creative enough with how some of your systems work.
True. And I may have answered my own question here, but I would love to hear your perspective. Why do this, and why now especially?
Personal journeys that, yes, of course, misinformation does spread very quickly. And every person, it seems, that has a different perspective about COVID. Not only that, but political polarization is the biggest piece of all of this, is why I'm doing it. We can't even sit in the same room together with our friends or families if we're on opposing sides of the political spectrum without basically tearing each other apart. And this is something that I really want to prevent. We're basically at a tipping point when it comes to political polarization. And if no one really does this now, we can indefinitely harm not only our democratic processes, but also our economy. And we're really trying to prevent an economic collapse that really can happen through the use of technology, as well as cleansing the internet of misinformation. There are areas of cortical where we can start healing this polarization. But again, middle ground is disappearing much faster than we've ever seen before. And as misinformation really continues to threaten our democracy, the lack of fake narratives that really destroy the credibility of some of our political news, we really want to restore people's faith back into, believe it or not, either the government, the media, or some of our democratic processes, by giving control back to narratives of people. So we really love our country, and we want it to be prosperous, and we really want to have a thriving democracy by truly mitigating that polarization and giving access to actual credible news that cuts through the noise. And we really want to also help, as another part of our mission, understand really the true meaning of democracy and what it means for the US to continue to lead the free world, and also give a sense of trust to voters back into our political system, unlike ever before.
Extremely important mission there, and kudos to you for taking this on. Right, it's not going to be easy. And before we talk about the challenges, give us a sense of the size and scale of your operations. I know you've just got on this journey, so also give us a sense of what's coming over the next few months.
Sure. Yeah, we've been in operation for about 11 months now. June, July will be our first year. But other than that, we're still in the pre-investment stage.
Mhm.
We've gained probably $565,000 in commitments out of $1 million round.
Mhm.
But prior to all of this, we actually have a team of 38 people,
Mhm.
all without investment. It's all a volunteer team. All of our current developments, product growth, everything has been done without investment, in addition with our lovely team. And now we're really in a stage to set and raise funds to bring our company to make it go further. We don't have any revenues or anything like that, but we will intend to start generating revenue towards the end of this year when we do amass a couple of users.
Mhm.
We actually, the difference between our startup is we only need about 25,000 users as opposed to 1 million in startups to start monetizing because of our value proposition to
Mhm.
customers and investors. And currently to this day, we're really happy to announce that we have about 11,000 users on our platform each
Nice.
day. And we really want to grow it to about 300,000 people towards the end of this year. So anyone that really listens to this, I would encourage, checking it out because we are actually building it for the public,
Mhm.
in the public's eye. And again, to the users, we want to provide clear and unvarnished visibility to key issues in policy and lawmaking through the news, keeping leaders accountable, through leader Q scores. This is almost a report card about politicians and progress and how the entire public feels about them in real time. And then obviously provide such detailed verification to the source of news by the elimination of fake news that, from there comes our customers. For customers, there would be media houses, current existing ones like Fox and CNN, government and campaign agencies, as well as polling organizations that are missing out of undecided voter data, even people that are more liberal or Republican, libertarian in nature. So for customers, we actually give an issue by issue breakdown to where voters stand, really understand how undecided voters are voting for some of these particular topics for politicians that are brought up, attract funding to campaigns for politicians in the future based on real issues. And then we really want to bridge the gap between the general public and politicians to help their policy better, and lawmaking. So the basis of what our system is that it's called an algocracy.
Mhm.
And algocracies are literally an algorithm that controls a form of government working with people as well as bridging that gap. And it uses artificial intelligence and blockchain to do so.
So congratulations again for building what you have built, like you said, through a consortium of volunteers that is a testament to the mission and your leadership. So congratulations. Let's talk about,
Thanks.
as you're taking on something that's really institutionalized over centuries, what's the biggest challenge you're facing as a business?
Sure. So currently, it'll probably be growth for the next few years. And when I mean growth, I mean user growth, right? It's not easy to create a social media ground up, and it's to get a full-blown social really difficult to gain a lot of users as we progress through our product. But when we are product ready, we are expecting about 25,000 users in the next 2 months. But growth to get to 300,000 people towards the end of this year and around midterms, it is going to be very difficult, obviously without investment. But growth hacking, our team, our morale, all of those things really do contribute to our growth. So it's like we're really doing this all for the people, and we really hate what we see out there right now, and we really want to change that and for it to be at least semi-controlled by somewhat of a general consensus.
Yep.
So we really kind of work on the best ideas that we hear from other growth hackers, our internal team, to see and ensure if it's a platform for us to enjoy. So all
Mhm.
of our users, we actually do take the time to speak to everyone and hear their thoughts as to what they want to see on our platform. So we're very community owned, we'd like to say.
Mhm.
And we would really encourage, again, to anyone that be a part of the mission or contribute, um, either in user growth to some capacity. We really would like allow the general public to help, either with our user growth, or even to invest in our rounds and be a part of this new system for all of us.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the most exciting opportunity you're targeting.
Yeah, I'd say, being that in the media, we either have media or we have social media,
Mhm,
but I'd really say that what we're really trying to do is challenge and also change the way that people perceive
mhm,
politicians in real time. So we actually can observe ideologies and perceptions that people believe in through our AI internally. This is also done completely without any personal information. It's just basically how someone is actually chatting
mhm,
to one another on the platform. But when two different politicians say the same thing, you can observe that and see the differences.
mhm,
In addition to that, we could use the leader Q score feature that we have, that report card feature that I might have mentioned earlier, and show how people actually react to politicians and see how much they've promised us and have kept those promises to give really, answer some of the unknowns that we all have from our politicians. It's a very direct bridge to gap. So I think that's like super exciting that's coming down the pipeline for us. But, it's really about time that someone has created something like this where it really does give people an
sure.
option to actually show in real time how everyone is feeling about everything,
Mhm,
because none of us have that ability to converse anymore without having extreme toxicity in our systems with like Twitter, so the AI that will pinpoint that origination source of a statement, that's really big. That's groundbreaking.
mhm.
In just a few short months, we'll be at a 92% accuracy rate.
Wow.
And in about 3 years, we'll be looking at a whole new world of media. 60 to 80% out there can be discredited overnight through this AI. So I'd say, that's pretty exciting. We've re-indexed all of Google, and really made a database of 10,000 media houses that we actually cross-check all of this information with. And this AI will eventually balance. We'll find that balance between a lot of these news sources and what politicians are speaking of and how people react to it. So, any disruptions in this balance of this new system could actually be flagged as possible sources of misinformation that just need to be investigated further. And this literally allows us to find the actual core and origin of the stories that we actually see in the news today that is buried very deep into the abyss.
This is super exciting. So let's transition from talking about the future to talking about something you have learned and have come to adopt. And this happens to be my favorite part of the show. We call this the one line life lessons. And I'd invite you to tell us your one line life lessons.
Sure. It's up to you if you'd like me to explain them, but here's some of them.
Mhm.
So network equals net worth. Um, you know,
Yes.
that's a pretty great one.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's another one out there that I always go by is like, I hope there are days that you fall in love with being alive, because some of the best days of your life haven't really been lived yet.
Yes.
I'm an optimist by nature, so that's a really big one for me. And then another one would be the same boiling water that softens the potato hardens
Hmm.
the egg.
Yes.
Life isn't about what you're made of, it's about what you're made of, not the circumstance.
Hmm.
So whatever you go through, if it doesn't kill you, it literally does make you so strong that never be worried to take risk or things like that, is what I think that means. And
I
then I'd say, like, I think I have two more. And then one of them would be, one day you'll wake up and there won't be any more time to do things that you love. Do it now.
yeah,
And then the last one, attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, and mirror what you admire.
love it. Nicole,
Yeah.
thanks very much for sharing your one line life lessons. And for our audience, we have an entire collection at onelinelifelessons.com and wherever you socialize digitally. Nicole, thanks again for being on the show, for sharing your journey, and for what you're building with Ether. Thanks again, and we really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bajaj. Thanks.